Welcome to the Courtship Aftershow, a talk show on the Reader Seeks Romance channel that recaps and discusses former NBC, current USA Network dating reality show, The Courtship, inspired by the work of Jane Austen. I am Liz Donatelli, and my co-host is my good friend and reality TV superfan, Tiffany Current. Today, Tiffany and I chat about episode 11, A Secret Revealed.
It was not a secret. We knew it. We knew the secret. We knew the secret. Only secret to Miss Remy. We all knew the secret. So,
Well,
you know.
Yeah. Well, this was overall, I would say, a much juicier episode.
Yes.
Than the last few. I just want to say right out of the gate, Miss Cleary speaks.
I was watching this episode and I was like, Liz is going to be going crazy. Miss Cleary is alive, y'all. She is alive and speaking, and she had a lot to say, and it was exciting. It was exciting. They let her loose.
It was. I have never hung on anyone's words as much as I did when she spoke, because I said they're letting her speak. What does she have to say?
I loved it so much. This was her episode. It was so much fun to see her speak. It was great.
It was her episode. She's really coming into her own in the second to last episode of the season. Oh, yes. Oh my God.
What?
Okay, this at the very beginning, there is a I guess, what would you call it? A one-on-one, a confessional where Miss Remy is speaking to the camera, and she's referring to the overnight visit with Chapman. And she says, quote, "Maybe I could be the one to change him and make him settle down." Oh my God.
When I first heard that, I was like, okay, so this is where this episode is going. Because I think even before we saw that moment, we saw her walk down into the room with her parents, and she was just smiling, and life was wonderful. And she was just, everyone's like, "You look like a diamond." I'm like, yeah, this is the morning after glow. She was super excited. So when I heard that line, I was like, this episode had better not be going in that direction. Because I was like, this girl. I was starting to roll my eyes. I'm like, I'm going to give it a chance. But she came down. She was excited. And then what I love is they cut from her to the boys, to the parlor room.
Yes.
I feel like the word in the parlor room of the day was confusion. All the guys were confused. Mr. Chapman's like, after our night together, my confusion is gone. Cut to Mr. Judge. I'm a little confused. Bochicchio, I'm a little confused. Cones, I'm a little confused, because they're all like, why is she having this overnight? What's going on? I'm confused because Mr. Chapman's been very open about his feelings. So, man, that word confused was tossed around. That was a polite way of saying, like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
That's basically what they were thinking. And then from the opening, we cut to the whole group being in front of Mr. Edwards. And Mr. Edwards basically said, it's a chore day. We're going to be doing chores.
Chore play.
He says it's time for chore play. Hashtag chore play. I thought that was the smartest line in the world. I'm like, I need to use that in real life. That's how you get people to do work. Like, want to do a little chore play today?
Or vacuum the rug.
Scrub those tiles. Get on those knees. Scrub it. Scrub it.
Missed the spot. Yeah, I thought that was pretty brilliant. They definitely upped their cleverness.
They did. And Mrs. Remy was like, not in front of us, not in front of the parents. Don't do chore play in front of the parents.
Yes, I was like, Mrs. Remy.
She's so cute. She's so cute.
Okay, so I have to say, these chores, these activities, like, I would have liked to see them earlier in the season, because I thought they were really interesting.
That's what, to me, honestly, this was the best episode, because they had one-on-ones with Miss Remy, and then they had one-on-ones with each person of the family.
Yeah.
And we got to see real relationships, and seeing them do this Regency era chores was just super cool. Like, I don't know how to do that stuff. That was just super cool to see.
It was kind of, talk about confusing. They're like, okay, you and you get together, you do a task, then one of you goes to the other person, and then you do another task. I was like, it's like a marathon. Miss Remy assisted each suitor in a different task.
That's correct.
And then the suitor would go to a different member of the court to accomplish the second part of the day.
Yes, exactly. To finish it in order to prepare for this dinner that's awaiting them later on tonight.
That's right. And the dinner is some kind of outdoors feast, an open air country feast called, I don't know, fete champette.
There was some sort of word they kept saying, and I kept thinking, like, is this like I thought it was a French word, because they kept saying it. Fete
is French for party, but it sounded like they started to say champette, like champagne. Is it
Maybe
champagne party?
maybe they changed it to a champagne party.
Or they're
I don't
like
know. It's
fête
possible.
champette. I was like, okay.
You're like, whatever. Let's just
Sure.
get to the drama.
I was
That's
gonna look it
fine.
up. I was like, it's just not worth it. So the
Yeah,
first thing they did was herding the ducks.
that's
Correct?
right. It was Miss Remy and Mr. Judge herding the ducks together.
Okay, which I thought was cute. I could watch Judge run around, all day.
Anytime he bends over, I'm like, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's right over
Yes.
there. That's fine. Keep getting it.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was cute because like I think she tried to do a duck call and it was just like it was terrible. It was hilarious. I don't know what she was doing. It was like this really weird.
Yeah. I don't
know
think
what it
she's ever
was.
heard a duck before.
His duck call was like on point.
I didn't notice.
He had a legit duck call. You should go back. It was like a legit duck call. But
Oh,
what I
really?
liked about that is that he basically said he was trying to do what she asked and just keep it light and fun. And she seemed to really appreciate it. She said he was fun and flirty, and that whenever she asked him to do something, he delivers. And when I heard that, I thought, yes, because he's amazing.
Yeah.
Why aren't you noticing this? He does. Whenever you ask him to do something, he will do it for you. It's like he's doing his acts of service all the time for you. Just notice him. Notice him.
She said, I think, to the camera that he was a front runner. She was singing his praises and said that, like, oh, he's everything I would want in a partner.
Yes.
And then I believe she said that he was alluded to the fact that he was kind of pulling ahead of the others. I don't know. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't know if I don't believe you.
I didn't believe it, but I was watching him thinking, this safe bet is amazing. I would take that hand.
In herding the ducks, I believe they herded the ducks so that way they could set up the picnic table outside. Is that
what's funny?
I wasn't really sure what that was about.
I never understood the tie-in. And as you said it, I still don't get the tie-in.
No,
I don't know why they had to herd the ducks because they were just putting at a table. It's like
you're putting at a table. Yeah, it was
ducks around.
It was a little ridiculous. I don't think that's actually a real job back then. I don't think they herded the ducks.
Not to set up a picnic table. Maybe they herded the ducks to, I don't know.
Yeah.
To go somewhere to eat food or something or other. But yeah, that was kind of weird.
That was a pretend Regency task. And then we had was it the milking the goats?
So next up it was Mr. Me, Mr. Chapman doing the bees.
The honeycombs.
That was what I loved about that, because I would love to do that bit. I'd also would be terrified, is that Miss Remy was terrified. She was screaming. She's like, this is fear factor. And what I did appreciate is that Mr. Chapman was calm and cool the whole time. He's like, it's fine.
He was.
Just get it out. He was, say what you will about him, he was being a good partner, that he was keeping her calm while she was freaking out. And I thought that was really nice balance there.
He was very confident. Has he done this before? Because
I know
I would feel very safe if I were, Miss Remy in that moment, because he seemed like he was like a bee whisperer. They didn't really explain what they were doing, but it looked like she was spraying the bees. For what reason?
Yeah. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to spray them to keep the bees calm. So that kind of calms the bees down to make it easier to pull out the honeycomb. So that's all that she's doing.
Okay.
She's just keeping them. It's just like she's giving them a drink, to kind of sedate them a little bit.
So he pulls out the honeycomb, and then he goes and meets Mrs. Remy on a lovely blanket.
On a picnic. It was a picnic date. I saw it too. I'm like, this is a nice. I saw it. I thought of you. I'm like, picnic pillow. Hello. Very nice setup.
And this conversation was hilarious because we get Chapman and Mrs. Remy speaking, and then Mrs. Remy talking to the camera about it.
It was so funny because she's basically like, well, first she's just like, so you just take your van around and you get out. He's like, oh no, I live in it. And then I go take showers at gyms. And then every once in a while I take showers in the lake. And she's just like, oh.
Well, what's funny is he said that when there was the pandemic shutdown, he had to stop showering in gyms. So he was like finding puddles of water wherever he could.
I think he was finding like streams or something to like
streams,
to take
puddles.
baths.
I imagine him doing a hobo bath. And
that was funny.
The opener to that conversation was, oh, Mr. Chapman, I hear you love honey. And he's like, oh yeah, peanut butter, rice cakes, and honey is basically his staple diet. And I was like, oh boy.
Look, I'm not going to lie. When I heard that, I thought Kismet, because I'm not kidding. I love peanut butter with honey on top of a rice cake. That's my jam. That's my jam. It's
Rice cake. A rice cake, not a popcorn cake or just like
a rice cake. A legit like a rice cake. You put it on. It's like healthier for you with some honey on top.
I know it's healthy. I can't imagine eating a lot of that. It seems like he was living on it.
It sounds like he enjoyed it. So when he heard about bees, he's just like, I can take this honey back to my van. Like, I'm legit going to take some back.
He admitted how long it's been since he said also that 3 meals a day was a luxury. I'm like, this dude is stockpiling. He's sending back care packages of food from the show to load up into his van. It's got to be. I mean, it was actually, he seemed content with living a very sparse lifestyle. But Mrs. Remy and even Mr. Remy, they're like, oh, no, this isn't going to work.
I loved it when it cut to them because they're both like, when he said he lived in a van, I thought he was stopping in hotels. They're thinking like, oh, he's stopping in hotels. He's staying with friends. And she's like, no, he's living in an SUV. That's what she said. I thought, oh, Mrs. Remy.
And that's when I realized that it was an SUV because I kept envisioning these vans almost like maintenance vans, service vans. I was like, an SUV is a whole other story because people could see into your SUV. At least the van, you could keep your home hidden, right?
People can see it. I mean, that's what he uses it for. But they were in shock. They were in shock of how, I have to admit, I never thought through what his van life was. But then when I heard it, I'm like, oh, he is legit just living in it. That's kind of it. But the way that they were so surprised by his #van life was cracking me up. They're just like, I could see them imagining their daughter, like, she's not living in that van. She's not. My daughter's not going to live in that van.
Yeah.
No, sir.
No matter how good the sex is. I don't know. Do you think he has one of those old school SUV vans that with the sliding door with the, I guess like the big, like the clunky sliding door?
I told you, I legit think it's like the Scooby-Doo van. I think it's that old school Scooby-Doo van. That seems like his style, like retro. That's his style. That's #van life. Miss Remy says to him, she asked him a direct question, can you make a commitment? And he said, I don't have a timeline. I don't have a timeline. And her expression kind of said it all, like, oh.
Yeah. Okay. She let it go because at that point she had heard enough anyway. So she's like,
you
no
live in a van.
timeline. That's okay anyway, because we don't really think you're a good fit. So she was just like, oh yeah, she took it well. Cause she's like, this guy was out the minute he said he lived in a van and took showers in the gyms. So
yeah, that she was done with him. She was legit, but I loved it. But then after that, she goes on a date with Mr. Cones, the goat date.
Oh, the milking of the goats.
Milking of the goat. I really liked Mr. Cones this episode because I felt like he was expressing himself very well. Yeah. And he said he feels a physical connection. He's just waiting to see if it's reciprocated, which is nice. He's like, I feel it, but I'm just waiting. And I think that overnight with Chapman changed it for a lot of the suitors. So they all were kind of like, all right, she's got to show me now what she wants. If she's interested, I'm going to stop putting myself out there. And I like that.
It was such a delight to watch the milking. I think at one point he wasn't squeezing an udder. I don't know if he was.
That was hilarious. I don't know what he was doing, but he was milking the goat, and she's like, I don't think that's an udder, and it was just like, it was hilarious. And then she went to try it, and then I think the goat kicked and then splashed all the milk
on her. Yeah. Honestly, it was a perfect scene for a rom-com.
Yes, it was.
I mean, honestly, this whole episode was very romance novel-esque.
It's perfect.
There were a lot of scenes, conversations, revelations that you're like, oh, wow, this is all just great fodder for a romance writer. So I hope romance writers are watching the show and getting some ideas. I'd love to see some of these tasks incorporated into a romance novel.
It was very cute.
And they were making cheese. Was that what it was? Can you make goat cheese in a day? Like they only got like 1 ounce of milk.
I don't, Liz, what do you think I know the answer to that? Do you think
because there was a lot of cheese on the table later.
Cheese making? Well, no, I think he said there was only a little bit of milk, and then he went to Miss Cleary to make it. And whatever she poured onto that strainer, I was like, that's not from them. That's not. There's a lot of stuff going on there.
She had all of a sudden this viscous milk stuff that I was like, where did that? Like, that's not what they took from the goat. Yeah, I don't know what that was. But Miss Cleary got to speak. She got a scene. She got a talking scene.
Enthralled. No matter what, I was like, I don't care what she says. I'm just glad she's a part of the team. I'm glad they let her out.
There was a brief heart-to-heart between Miss Cleary and Mr. Cones.
Yes.
He said that he's a romantic.
Yes.
And so Miss Cleary's like, well, I mean, break that out, break out the romance, express your love, do some, I guess, grand gestures of sorts.
Absolutely. And she said that, he said back, I'm trying to express my love, but she has to want it.
Yes, she did.
It was like,
yes.
He had so much self-knowledge of himself in the situation. I was like, yes, exactly. She has to want it. And he's just like, he's being self-aware, and I love that. I love it.
He is. Actually, I think a lot of the suitors are more self-aware than the heroine of the story. So anyway.
It's true. It's true. I feel like it's almost one of those situations when you reach a point where someone's pushed you to a point where it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going anymore. You can go if you want to. You need to make a decision. I am here. If you want me, this is it. I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. Next,
Mr. Remy.
We have is it Bochicchio and Remy?
Mr. Bochicchio.
They go.
I
was confused by
the chickens. The chickens.
Okay, but here's the thing: they went to feed the chickens, and then it was like then they were taking eggs from the chickens. So it's like they had to do both. So is that what you do? You feed a chicken and then take its eggs? Is that
you're overthinking it? You think they're like get it fast?
Well, it seemed like there was like, oh, we're feeding the chickens so we can take the eggs. Am I mistaken? Is that not how it works? Like, here is some food. Now give us some eggs. Like, I don't know.
Is that how you think it works in real time? It's just
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you. I don't know.
They're passing it up. Can we do an exchange?
Yeah,
can we do an exchange? It's a bartering system. I think it was just something for fun for them to do. And I thought Mr. Bochicchio was so cute. He was naming chickens and he seemed to really be enjoying himself.
Yeah,
and
he was.
During that time, like he was very much closed. Even watching it, I could feel that he was kind of tense. And Miss Remy also noticed that he was feeling a little tense. And at one point, they're loading the basket with these unknown eggs that they somehow got that we never saw. And she says, I don't think I should put all my eggs in one basket. And he says, I don't think you should either. And I was like, yes.
And I think she didn't understand what he meant, though, because she's like, oh, really? I think he was referring to Chapman, but I think she was referring to Bochicchio.
No, I think she gave him a look. If you go back, she kind of gives him a stern look because he quickly says, just kidding. But I like that he said that because he was kind of like digging in. I felt like when I was watching this, I'm thinking Liz should love this because all this time you've been talking about, I want these suitors to turn the table on her and ask her these hard questions. And they were doing it this episode. And I loved it. I was like, good. You should ask her these questions. Like you should figure out what do you want? What do you actually want out of this relationship?
Yep. She's like, what's going on with you? You seem like there's something wrong. It's like, oh God, she's so clueless. And he was, I give him credit. He admitted, you spent the night with Lincoln. It really bothered me. She kind of seemed to understand, but not really. They cut, and she again mentions about we need to be honest with each other. We need to talk things out. And then they cut to her talking to the camera. And Nicole,
I know. Yes.
Nicole says, this is when I started. Nicole says, I'd give Mr. Bochicchio the world if he'd open up his heart to me.
I got to tell you, I had the same reaction. I heard that and I was like, you're making it so hard for me to root for you. That's what I was thinking. Like you were making it hard for me to root for you when she said that, because he's one of the few people that's being straightforward and being direct and being honest and saying things. He even said at one point, he was frustrated because he's the most committed person on the show. And he's frustrated because she keeps, I think at one point he said he was upset because Mr. Chapman has been transparent about not wanting a commitment. And he's like, and from what you tell me what you want, it's night and day. He's like, so I am confused as to why you had an overnight with him.
Yes. And I don't think she ever directly addressed anything. It was she deflects. She deflects all the time. She's
just like, I feel a pit in my stomach about what you're
she's done that a lot. Oh, it's like, oh, I just lost my stomach. My stomach just sunk. She was stunned. And she basically goes on to say that
I can't move forward with you unless we're honest.
I wrote
when
that
she
too.
said that, I thought, oh my God, is she about to break up with him? I totally thought she was about to break up with him.
I thought so too. And then she made a proclamation that was when I texted you on WhatsApp and said, over this effing show. So
that's when you texted me? Oh my God.
She says to Bochicchio, I'm in love with you and I have been for a while.
Like you, I thought she was breaking up with him. So when she said that, I was like, what?
What? Yeah.
He also, I think he was as stunned as us because he also looked at he was always like
down. Danny B gives cold hard stare. That's what my note says. And he said, I don't know how to process what you're telling me.
He was shocked because we were shocked. But then I think he did appreciate the fact that she was honest. And she was like, I know what it was. Because he said that I really like you. And she's like, this is Final Four. You like me?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
Whatever, girl. Whatever.
Yeah.
But what I liked about Danny B is he was being direct and honest about his feelings. And he said, how am I supposed to be vulnerable with you? Because there are all these guys that you're dating. And he's like, so he's protecting his heart. So it's becoming very clear as to what he's doing. He's like, I'm giving you part of me, but not all of me, because I don't know. You're giving out mixed signals. You're telling this guy this thing. You're telling me this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want. So after this, Miss Remy storms off, by the way.
Yeah. And it was raining. So it was raining. It was appropriate. She stormed off in the rain.
She storms off in the rain.
And he got her the umbrella. He was even kind enough to get her the umbrella.
That was so sweet. They start talking at the beginning of the segment. And he's like, wait, let me go get you an umbrella. And I'm like, this guy.
Yeah. Right.
I love him. He is a great catch. He's like, let me be a gentleman, go get you an umbrella. I know you don't want to get your hair wet. He goes to get the umbrella. Funny thing.
I didn't know it was raining. So when he stopped and says, let me get an umbrella, I thought it was almost akin to, hey, let me go out and get a pack of cigarettes and never return. So I thought he was going to get the umbrella and just walk off, And then I was like, oh, wait, it actually is raining.
It's raining. But what was great is that after this, Danny B goes to do some sort of, I don't know, something with Mrs. Baker. And when the two of them meet up, instantly I was like, I love them together. They need their own show. They had like such a great little rapport. Like this is like serious in-law goals here, because these guys, the way that they were talking to each other, it felt like they were already family. It
did. There was a familiarity between the two that I appreciated. I did not understand what was going on. Like he didn't even bring her eggs. So I don't know. He was supposed to bring her eggs. He did not. So I don't know. Maybe Miss Remy took the eggs. So Mrs. Baker was fiddling, like baking something. I don't know. They had a pretty good conversation.
But what I loved about that is she's just like, she said, how was the date? And he says, I need to sit down. He was exhausted, as are we, the viewers, from this whole situation. And they had a wonderful talk where he went through and he talked about, he admitted that Miss Remy stormed off and that he's frustrated because she keeps claiming she wants marriage, but she's entertaining people that don't like that or that don't want that.
Yes. Yeah.
And Mrs. Baker was surprised by that comment. She said there's people here that don't want to get married. She didn't know that. She didn't know that. It was interesting.
You know what I realize I keep forgetting is that the audience has shown things that happened, but a lot of the members of the cast didn't know happened. Because I keep finding myself like, how is everyone so clueless, right? But at the same time, I forget this is all happening. There are things going on behind closed doors, especially in the parlor, that we're privy to that they were not. So I guess I have to be a little bit more understanding when it comes to like, how could they not know this was happening? Even Mr. We also say Miss Remy is clueless too, but we are being let in on things that maybe, she wasn't, although still she was told things directly that she chose to ignore. But
she was told things directly. She was told to his face. She was told to her face multiple times that I just want to live in my van. I don't know if this is love or lust. He told her directly, Mr. Chapman said directly to her face, I don't know if this is love or lust. And she said, oh, I'll be patient.
Yes. And I remembered when she stormed off from Mr. Bochicchio, I was thinking, well, where's your patience now? I've been in love with you for a while. And I'm going to storm off because I have no patience for you. And Chapman is like, I don't know if I love you. And she's like, I can wait. Don't you worry. I care about you, so I will wait.
I know.
So again, and this is all about her getting the good D.
I mean, she got the good D. We saw how happy she was after the fact. That was some good D. She did it.
This is
She
what
was
it's all.
glowing.
That's what
She was
she's been
glowing.
chasing. She's been chasing the D all this time.
And she got it. And
Twice.
that's what happens. That's what happens.
Twice.
We don't know if it's twice. I think it's for sure once. We don't know if it's twice.
I don't know. The guys were really rocking the gold chains in this episode. Okay, Bochicchio looks like he's double chained up. Judge had a pretty decently sized chain.
Yeah,
I noticed
cones.
that Cones has got like, it looks like
It was like a circle.
medallion or a charm.
Yeah.
And they were all like, I don't know, for some reason this episode they all were loose and
Yeah,
had like, you know, no cravats. And
yeah, I liked it.
I just want to say, I really thought it was very sexy that they were rocking all this like, you know, jewelry.
I thought it was so sexy.
Yeah.
We could talk about this later. I'll tell you when the moment happened.
Oh.
This is like the first time I was like, you know what? Mr. Cones, I was like feeling it. I don't know what it was with the open shirt and the chain. Something about the open shirt and the chain.
Open shirt with the chain. I got a lot of that in this episode from the suitors.
It's nice.
I would have liked to see Chapman with a little bit of jewelry.
He had his bee gear on, so his whole face was covered. There was no opportunity to see
that. Is hilarious. Oh my God, his beekeeper outfit when they had him talking to the camera. First of all, it didn't look like a beekeeping outfit. He looked like he went to Salvation Army and just piled on a whole bunch of different mishmash of clothes and decided to go bee hunting or something. It was hilarious. It was. The next thing is when they cut to the guys in the was not
the parlor.
The parlor.
It was the parlor.
And then Chapman admits to. Does he admit to Bochicchio, Cones, and Judge, or I think it's just Judge and Cones, right?
Mm-hmm, that's it.
And he admits that, you know, he had a post-nut moment of clarity after his recent overnight visit with Miss Remy, and says he realized, I can't fall in love with this girl.
And I'm exhausted from trying to convince myself.
Yes. Brutal, but you know what? I felt the truth in his words. So I'm going to say he was telling the truth.
He did seem like he did seem worn out. He did seem like, I'm worn out from this. And he was happy to admit his feelings to Cones and Mr. Judge to get it off his chest. Yeah. And I think he basically said the thing that we already knew, which is like, this is not going to work out. This is just a fling for him. Yes. And then at that moment, he walks off. He says, thanks for letting me talk.
I'm proper knackered. I was like, oh.
He's I'm proper knackered. And he leaves Mr. Judge and Mr. Cones to have a separate conversation. And I'll tell you this. Yeah. This was the moment. In this specific moment, I had a big star here. In this moment, when it was just Mr. Judge and Mr. Jones talking, and Mr. Cones is sitting back with his little shirt open and the chain there. And his feet. That's when I was like, and his feet up, I was like, he is so sexy to me. That was the first time I had that moment with him.
Interesting.
It was so sexy because in that moment when he was like, you know, shirt open, he was basically saying something really sweet, which was this, like, I understand that Mr. Chapman was confused about his feelings, but the moment you become aware, you become responsible. And I was like, this man, like this entire episode, he's been just like, you know, just throwing out nuggets of just beautiful information. I'm like, that is so true. And I appreciate that. I was using the word responsible. Yeah. Because I agree with that. I agree. What do you think?
I agree too. I didn't have the intense sexual attraction to him in that moment like you did. I appreciated his wisdom. I don't know how I feel though about how he handled the situation in the next scene.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know what is right in that situation either, but I appreciated that moment of him saying it, and it was responsible. Mr. Chapman needed to tell her. And I didn't know that moment if he would or not. It was his responsibility,
not Mr. Cones' responsibility.
It was not. And basically we see Mr. Cones at that moment writing a letter.
In a very dramatically shot scene. Where you get a close-up of him actually writing with was it a quill? I think it was a quill pen.
I think it was a quill. Like, it was like a perfect movie moment. Like we needed to have like a candle. He should have been on a boat, you know, and like this is his last will and testament. I have to send this out and like hand it to the little boy and like run.
It was I actually thought it was kind of funny. And you see him then dramatically folding his note after he writes it, and all we see is "You deserve to know the truth, most respectfully, Anonymous. And
can you be respectfully anonymous? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. What was funny is I thought that's all he wrote. So the next scene surprised me when there was the reading of the letter. I was like, he wrote all that?
That's so funny. I knew he
two.
wrote, I knew he wrote more.
Okay. I foolishly believed that was
Yeah,
it.
that was not the letter.
Yeah.
But so after that, we basically get them all sitting together at this dinner that they've been preparing
The
for.
fete champagne pet.
Whatever this champagne dinner is, they're all there sitting there together. Yes. And what I liked is that Mr. Bochicchio sat down next to Mrs. Remy and he gave her a hug. Did you see that? He gave her a little squeeze. I was like, oh.
I just want to say that clearing the ducks, herding the ducks to put out the table was for naught because it rained and they ended up doing the whole outdoor dinner inside.
They were not expecting the rain the entire day, let's be honest, because you're like, rain, we have all these beautiful settings set up outside.
Yeah. Which I'm glad it was more dramatic inside.
Yeah, when there's, it's better when it's inside because you feel like closed in. So they're all sitting around the table together in the parlor. And basically Mrs. Baker and Miss Cleary are asking questions like, what's it like being the final four? You know, what's the parlor talk like? What's going on there? And Mr. Chapman very quickly says, what happens in the parlor stays in the parlor.
Yeah, that was his subtle, keep your mouth shut, boys.
But in that moment, that's when the letter arrives.
That's when the letter arrived. Uncanny timing, don't you think?
I think so. I think there's some editing happening there. Yes.
And Judge cracked me up because he lowered his head and he's like, these are never good.
Yes, I wrote the same line down. He's that youngest kid at the dinner table, like something. I was like, oh, not again.
These are not good. This is when Miss Remy reads the letter. She starts shaking. She's obviously very distraught. Her two ladies in waiting, Miss Cleary, Mrs. Baker, gather her together.
Absolutely.
You know, walk with her to the side. There's hugs. And then they give Cleary, Miss Tessa Cleary, her big shining moment where she talks about how she knew something was wrong when the letter arrived and how she felt shaky and upset. And
they were all upset. They were all upset. And then eventually Mrs. Baker goes back to the table and asks her parents politely to take a walk.
Yes.
And so they leave, and that leaves the remaining suitors. And basically Miss Remy comes back and she is, I think, on the verge of tears, on the verge of anger, and reads the letter. And I guess apparently you finally got to hear what was inside that letter.
So when you started reading, I started thinking, is this a different letter? I started wondering, wait, maybe two different letters. Like, I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, this is getting good. But she read this very eloquent letter, which I did not write verbatim. I don't know if you wrote it verbatim. No. But basically, it said that Mr. Chapman revealed to the other suitors that he views this as a fling. He's not interested in commitment, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, you should know, signed anonymous. And it's funny looking at all their faces around the room. And she asked Chapman, she's like, is this true, Chapman? And he's like, well, I wouldn't have phrased it that way. I wouldn't have put it that way, but yes.
And in that moment, I was like, great. And that moment, it was like silence.
Yeah, it was awkward.
It was awkward for me watching. It was awkward for the people at the table. And Mr. Chapman, you know, smartly said, can we have a minute? Can we have a minute alone? Can we have a minute alone?
He did,
And everyone else clears the room and they sit down, and he basically apologizes and said that it's true. And he says to her that, you know, I wish I could love you, but I can't. And when he said that totally reminded me of Sex of the City, the Burger moment with the Post-it when Burger said, I'm sorry, I can't, don't hate me. That's exactly what ran through my mind. And he's just like, I can't do this. I can't be that guy. And honestly, when he was explaining his point of view, which was just basically that, you know, people kept telling them how much they looked like they were in love. And he's just like, well, if people are seeing it, then maybe I'm missing something and I should stay longer. I actually saw his point of view. I actually understood it. Yeah.
I think that was totally legit. It's so easy to talk to feel talked into something. And especially when you're on a show and you're feeling the pressure. Yeah. I mean, there had to be enormous pressure for for him, the more people said, oh, you guys, oh, you must be in love. And for someone who apparently has not been in love frequently in his life, maybe not ever, I don't know. To him, it's like, well, maybe this is what love is. Maybe I just don't recognize it. I understood where he was coming from. Do you think he would have come clean had it not been for the letter?
I think he would have come clean because okay, let's be honest. They're on a show, so they had a schedule. So they had their overnight, and then whenever the next day happened, the producers are probably like, these are the activities that we need you to do. So maybe he was waiting until all those activities were done before going to have that conversation with her, because he's been open directly with his feelings, saying that, I'm not sure, this could be love or lust. Do you have patience? He's been pretty open with his feelings. So I think he would have done it. I'm not sure when he would have done it. I'm not sure if it would have been after the dance later on. But I feel like he would have done it eventually. But I too was like, well, why didn't you just go tell her? Like, why are you taking so long? Go tell her. Tell her.
I could swear I heard, and this was like a very, like, the audio was low at this point. I could swear he said to her, I had planned to tell you tonight, or I was going to say something tonight, or I was going to do something tonight. Okay. So, but again, I mean, maybe he just said that. I have no idea. Don't know. But he did seem genuinely upset that he wasn't the one to tell her.
Yes.
Which means he did have an intention, but to do so, but didn't really know when. So was it fair that Combs took it upon himself to out Chapman and not give Chapman the chance to do the gentlemanly thing? But that begs the question, would he have done it? We don't know. We'll never know now.
We'll never know. I mean, we'll never know, but I'm glad that it made it very dramatic for everyone.
It was very dramatic. And she's like, you broke my heart twice. I'm like, well, okay. I mean, you could have probably avoided the second time, but
you could have. The way it ends though is that he says, it's tough to hear. He tells her, I promise you will find a man that loves you.
Yeah.
And she says, I hope so. And I hope I never get played like this again.
Yeah. I don't think that was fair, because it takes two to get played.
That's true. Oh, you're right.
In this case,
you're harsh. In this case, it took one. It took one. It took yourself. It took you, Miss Remy.
I know it sounds harsh. I have life experience, and I feel like, it does take two to get played, and for hard to make it seem like it was all his fault, even though you could argue that it was all his fault. She does have some responsibility in this. He was going to give her a hug, and she denied the hug. He asked about the hug.
That honestly felt like such a real moment for me. Like when you're breaking up with someone, it's like, can I give you a hug? And she's like, no,
I don't want you. Yeah.
Get out of here.
I mean, he was trying to, like, I don't know, extend his time with her. I don't know. He was trying to feel okay about everything. It's like, dude, you just have to leave. That's the best.
You gotta get out. You gotta get out.
Okay. So now we get to the farewell dance.
I think we should rename it the apology tour, because she went around in a circle saying sorry to all the suitors, as she should.
Well, you know why she did it? Yeah, because I got to pick one of you now, so I got to make amends is really what this is about. She said she was sorry to Danny B because she said she felt like she was running from him, which apparently she has done in other relationships. I was like,
I can see that.
Interesting. Yep. She admitted to not recognizing or being more effusive with Judge about how amazing he is.
I know. She said, I need to let you know how much I see you and hear you, and I want you to stay. Yeah. It's like, finally. When she said that, I'm thinking, finally.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah. And then Combs was last. I actually thought she was going to say goodbye to Combs because I figured she had to get rid of someone at the dance. No, she kept all three. So Combs was fine. And Combs admitted to writing the letter.
Yes, he did.
Were you surprised by Miss Remy's, I appreciate that you did that attitude? Like, did you expect that? What did you think?
I wasn't surprised, because at that point she'd probably gone through all of her emotions, and maybe she was grateful that somebody told her, because it didn't seem like he was going to, and probably in her eyes, right? Like he took it to the next level with her, and he still never admitted that he might just see her as a fling. So I think she really did appreciate it.
To me, that's solidified in my eyes. They have a friendship only, because that's something you would not get, you would possibly be okay with your friend doing, like, thanks friend for looking out for me and writing the letter. But if she saw him as a romantic interest, she might have took it as, oh, you were making a power play for me, or you were trying to stir the pot, but being she received it so well, I was like, oh, that's because she views him as a friend, and a friend would do that. I don't know. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I still, no matter what, get a friend vibe between them. But when at the final 3 dance, I thought she has to keep all of them, because then what's the last episode going to be about? She has to keep all 3.
So now we're going into the finale next week.
Finally.
With Combs, Judge, and Bochicchio. What are your predictions?
I don't have my predictions, but who I think she should end up with is Mr. Bochicchio. To me, that seems like the right match for her. And they had a connection from the very beginning. What about you?
I think she'll end up with Bochicchio too. I think that Judge is at a disadvantage because he started late in the season. So he did not get as much time to solidify his connection with her. I am 100% sure she is picking Bochicchio.
Or she'll end up by herself, as you said. Or Mr. Chapman comes back. He's just like, I thought it over.
Now, that would be
No.
Well, Tiffany, I look forward to watching the finale next week and chatting with you about it here on the Courtship Aftershow.
I'm looking forward to it. It should be an eventful final episode.
Farewell.
Farewell.
Your carriage
awaits.